I'm a little nervous, to be honest.
You are? Why?
I don't know. You guys,
We're not very good interrogators.
I have some serious. No, I don't know. I couldn't even finish the sentence.
After serious, it was
I
all
have
downhill.
serious inquiries.
yeah,
We've got beef. Welcome. Here we go.
And I'm not Tony Hawk. Hey everybody, it's Jason Ellis and Tony Hawk. Hawk vs. Wolf, greatest podcast of all time in the history of the universe.
What he said about our podcast, and we have decks that are of the podcast.
Signed by the greatest skateboarder of all time in the history of the universe, and me.
Dang, I was going to get away with that. This is the same graphic that we used before, but with gold background, special edition.
It's like my teeth, but better.
It's number one. And the diptych, which is 2 decks, go side by side, signed by each of us, right there. Black with silver.
I love this board so much.
Tim Baring art on both of these.
Shout out to Tim. And get yourself one of these bad boys immediately.
For the holidays.
What a gift.
So here they are for the holidays, right here. Gold-plated Hawk vs. Wolf signed deck and black and silver diptych available now.
Get one today.
You can get it at TonyHawk.com and in the shop right there. There's a little menu, upper right, shop. See both of these. Click add to cart. It'll arrive before the holidays and it'll make a good gift. And we hope you give it to someone that has liked and described already.
Yeah. Make sure you do that if you haven't.
Thank you.
Are you looking for a delicious and nutritious snack that packs real protein punch?
Don't punch me.
I would never do that.
Because I'm holding pistachios in my hand.
Wait a
and
minute.
They'll fall on the floor.
You got to crack into a good source of protein with tasty, healthy, wonderful pistachios.
Ow.
Each 1 ounce serving of wonderful pistachios contains 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value, mate. Pistachios are known for their protein power. Fiber, better for you, unsaturated fats for a combination that will help keep you feeling fuller longer. Check out wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more about how these little green wonders can power up your day.
Jamie Thomas is here.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
You asked and you have received. Jamie Thomas.
Somebody asked for me?
Of course.
That's pretty sweet.
Yes.
Wow, are you insecure?
I'm not insecure, but I didn't think that...
You don't think people would ask for Jamie Thomas on this show?
I don't know.
It makes sense. You're pretty.
Yes, you are a legendary skateboarder,
Yeah.
Jamie.
No,
Yes,
I mean,
you're-
I'm not,
and
I'm
also
not fishing.
THPS alumni.
This isn't me fishing. I'm just saying, I don't know.
You sure you don't want me to tell you you're awesome?
No, I don't.
Does it feel good? You
That's
feel
not
a
what
bit
I'm looking for. It's
uncomfortable
not what
when
I'm
I
looking
tell you
for.
that
I'm feeling kind of uncomfortable.
I think you're an amazing skateboarder. You're a pretty cool dude too.
Thanks, Jason.
Yeah, you're like you've always been ahead of it, you know? You've helped create a scene that's like forever.
And the hustle. You have the hustle.
Now let's get
That's what I've
into
seen.
why
Yes.
you suck.
Now that we got that out of the
you
way.
know why you're
Gotta
here.
make him feel better. He was getting awkward.
Now that we got that out of the way.
I mean, we met a long time ago, but I feel like we got to know each other mostly through audio shoes. Mm-hmm. We were on the trips together doing stuff. Those were fun.
Yeah, they were. That Europe trip was fun.
Yeah.
Riley was like 5 or 4.
yeah. Oh, on the first one we went to, he
Yeah.
was like 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember he had like a skateboard and some rollerblades, and it was just like, he was just a little kid just doing whatever.
Yeah, just on the road.
Yeah, it was cool.
What kind of demos did you two do together?
Skate parks.
Yeah, skate parks. You know, there's in Europe there were vert ramps and, you know, street courses and whatnot. And, you know, Tony can rip a street course.
Yeah.
We should say that in past tense.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh,
You
no,
skated the
he's got-
barracks.
I'm not a fan. I'm a fan, but I think I'm a fan.
Why do I set myself up?
It's more like a comedy show to me.
there we
like,
go.
but it's A for effort, but goddamn, dude, your feet are too big. It's like you can't do. When he sets up for stuff, it's like, whoa, look out! We're going for a fucking.
This is a quadruple flip.
He's setting up for a whopper. You know what I mean?
I see your
And then
job.
it's
Your
just
job here. Your job here is to humble Tony.
It looked like it was about to fly.
Setting up for a whopper.
You see him on vert, it's like he's all relaxed, and then he does like, crazy stuff with ease, and then he comes to a flat bank and like rips a kickflip, and it's like, what the hell was that?
I don't know. Street Tony got down, lip slide the 12.
Oh yeah, no, he can do millions of front nose blunts, like you name it, he's done it. It's just,
Was it
It's
airwalk?
not pretty. I get it.
that's all.
Yeah.
Airwalk ad, lip slide the 12 at Roosevelt.
Yeah. I
That's
got served
insane.
on that.
That's a good one.
You ate it on that,
Yeah, I mean, I made it, but
but you also took a couple.
I also took I took it to like P
the
roses
ground was
across
pretty
that,
rough.
and that
Ground's rough.
that is like the roughest asphalt.
Yeah.
So you get rocks embedded in your hand.
Yeah.
And then I went again and got more rocks under those rocks. Yeah, it was bad.
It paid off.
It paid off, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm thankful that
I remember
Stuart-
it to this day.
that Stuart followed me there and we did it.
I think the first time we got to hang out was when we were working on the Invisible video at your house in '93.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
That's when I was at my job as a video editor.
Yeah, those were tough times for the Birdman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was kind of in the back seat editing. Like, you knew how to work all the equipment. Dave Bergthal was there.
Yeah.
Kind of like directing the video. I didn't really know how to edit a part, and I was pretty nervous to be at your house. And I'd seen you at a couple of contests before then, but not really like hung out or talked. And it was good though. You became human to me that day.
That was fun.
Yeah. Because before that, I'm a kid. You're, legendary, iconic skateboarder that I've seen since, my whole life growing up. But we were like in an editing studio for 6 hours. That kind of wears off a little bit, and you're kind of like there talking about normal stuff, being normal people. It was cool.
Oh, it was super fun. So going back to your beginning, yeah, I don't know exactly your path, but I know you were mostly started skating in Alabama. Is that right?
My father was a nuclear engineer, and I was born in Florida. He accepted a job in Alabama when I was like 6 weeks old. We moved to Alabama. I lived in the country, like pigs, goats, chickens, like the full country, until about fourth grade. Moved to Atlanta for a year because he accepted a job there for a year. Kind of got introduced to like Van Halen and rock and roll, and got out of the sticks for a bit. Lived in like the suburbs of Atlanta, like Marietta, and that was really cool. Back to Alabama for a summer. Then my dad accepted a job in South Florida, Palm Beach Gardens. And skateboarding was booming, 1987, Bones Brigade, the deal. And everybody at the school had like new paddle boards. And I got into skating. I was like, wow, this is amazing. I saw this guy, my brother worked at a marina in Florida. And I saw this guy doing 360s, and he had long blonde hair, kind of like the epic Stacy video where he's freestyle.
Yeah.
But he was on like a maybe late 70s Sim Superlight.
Wow.
But I didn't really know much about skating, so I didn't know what boards were current or not. And I was fascinated by what he was doing. And this is right before we moved in and I got to school, and everybody had like, paddle boards. And so I bought this Sim Superlight off him for like $20 of complete. And started skating at this tennis courts, and like, was just really hyped on it. And then we moved to Florida, and skating was booming, and I was learning bonuses and learning how to ollie, and there was a kid on my street had a quarter pipe / launch ramp, and I was trying to learn rock and rolls and stuff. So it was about first found a skateboard in 84, 85, and then 86, 87, got really into it. Lived in Florida for 2 years, and then my father got transferred back to Alabama. And that was hell. It was basically like living the dream, feeling like I'm in.
You were.
Yeah, I was fully committed
skating.
in punk rock music, going to the movie theater, and trying to like living the thrashing scene. I saw the Josh
It's
Brolin.
like Footloose.
Yeah, and I was just super into it, and
You wanted to be Tony Hank?
Tony Hanks.
Timmy Hanks.
Yeah. So movie theater on the Friday night, everyone's skating everywhere, and like the buzz was wild. And then I moved back to Alabama, and there was like 4 skaters in the whole town, and no one at my school skated, and it was a pretty rough re-entry. Started racing BMX a little bit.
Yeah,
and
I did that.
Skating a little, and then I was at the BMX track one day, and there was all these guys with launch ramps, and it was like guys from the other side of town. I was like 12 or 13, didn't have access to the other side of town. Anyway, they were like doing like, hippie twists and judos and stuff off the launch ramp. They were beyond where I had been skating. And so I was like, oh, wow, these guys are not only...
Wait, they were BMXers that also skated?
No, I was at the BMX track, and in the parking lot,
the parking lot,
yeah, these guys had a launch ramp set up, and they were like legitimately good. The guy's name was Chris Grogan, and I remember just seeing him, and it was like, wow, that guy's like... And he was like 16 or so, a little older, and I was like, wow, there's skaters here, and I met them, and then they introduced me to some more guys, got back into skating, and then, was back in it, and, actually progressed faster leaving it for a little bit, like learn kick flips and kind of, progressed pretty quickly.
Do you think it was because it was more inaccessible, so you were
I think I'd grown.
focused?
I think I also wasn't like a baby anymore. Like 12 is kind of a hard time to learn flip tricks and flat ground. It's kind of hard. And I was like 13, maybe 14, and kickflips, and I'd grown a little bit. Kickflips and stuff were a little bit easier. And I BMX, I'd also done some pretty gnarly jumps, and I'd kind of cultivated a little bit of, I don't know, confidence. So when I re-entered skating, I was pretty hungry, and also everybody was better than me. And I think from a young age, I always wanted to prove myself, and I felt competitive. I wanted to catch up, So I was trying my hardest, like on a daily basis, to catch up and be with the guys. And they're all older than me, so
How long did it take you to catch up?
I think only a couple months. I think I was pretty fired up about it all. And then at that point, I met all the skaters in the surrounding towns. I started traveling around, but lived in Alabama until I was 17, and then moved to Atlanta for the summer, and then California, 17.
Atlanta on your own?
Yeah, I had a friend. I met a friend that skated there, my friend Devin. And I met a whole crew of guys from Atlanta. So in Alabama, I live in a small town, about 50,000 people, and every weekend we would go to like the surrounding areas. I'd go to Florida, Pensacola, Fort Walton Beach, Panama City Beach, Atlanta, all the small cities in the area, and skate with all the different crews. Because, 50,000 people, we probably had 7 skaters in our town, maybe 10. And then at my high school, there was only 2 or 3. So it was pretty small. So I needed to travel around the Southeast. Went to Atlanta to skate in the city. Andy Howe was, like the dude at that point.
Yeah.
And so Atlanta was like a big city. It's the closest big city to where I grew up. It's about 3.5 hours away. And I met this crew of skaters there. And one, I befriended a guy named Devin, and started kind of going back and forth up to see him and see all their crew. And then he's like, yeah, you can stay at my house for the summer or whatever. So I moved into his house for the summer, got a telemarketing.
What did your parents think of that?
I'd quit school, and they pretty much knew I was on the pursuit. I was dreaming of California, and I was in that NSA contest circuit at the time, like on the East Coast, placed in a few contests. So I'd made it to the finals, and the finals were in Texas. And this is 1992.
What, Houston? Skatepark Houston?
Yeah, Matt Beach and Andrew. I think Andrew got second.
Yep.
And Matt won.
Yep.
Did you care about doing well in a contest?
I wanted to do whatever I could do to get to California and to have companies notice me.
I feel like that was, even in those days, that was still the only path.
Right. But once you got...
I was filming sponsor me videos like crazy. I was sending... This is a crazy story, but I sent a sponsor me video to Reel. Tony Guerrero, Tommy's brother, was doing sales at Deluxe. And... I worked at a skate shop for a little bit in this time period in Alabama. It was like a hobby shop. And I befriended Tony by buying Reel. We were like one of the first accounts, like buying Reel in that area. So we were buying Reel boards for the shop. He sent me a few extras for me, but he sent them to my house. And so that felt incredibly special. The first board I got was the Hanging Klansman. The first free skateboard I ever got was the Jim Thiebaud Hanging Klansman.
Wow. So
I was getting this Reel flow, and I sent them sponsor me video. I think I sent 18 in a 12-month period.
With no reply to all 18?
No, they were replying, but it's only Tony, the sales.
What would they say after?
He would be like, yeah, I showed the guys, cool, man, here's a couple more boards. But it was pretty, excessive. Like, I don't know what my thought process was. Yeah. My thought process was just, I don't know. I think I was maybe quantity over quality.
You were only sending them to them, though.
Only sending them to them.
Why were you only interested in Reel?
Because I talked to them on the phone, and it was a new brand, and I thought it was cool, and I love Tommy and Jim, and I thought that what they had going was cool. But at the same time, I thought, my only chance is to be a part of something new and small. I'm not getting on like Powell or whatever, even though we were kind of this is 92, Powell's kind of fading.
Well, that was the irony of that is that Lance, Tommy, and I all left Powell to start the firm, Reel and Birdhouse under the same distribution.
Oh, wow.
So we all were making our boards at the same place. We had the same. We were distributed by Blitz. It was just funny how you liken that to Powell, where it was like, no, Powell was...
Yeah, Powell was kind of outdone. I guess my point
It
was...
wasn't undone, but it was just more, we had left.
Right. So World Industries and Blind were kind of the cool thing at the time, but, I also knew that I didn't have the talent at that level, and I was just... I don't know, man. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was just trying to connect with the West Coast and have some sort of connection. So they started giving me boards, and I started traveling around the East Coast to these contests, and I'd placed, second or third in a couple of regionals. My point was I qualified for the final in Texas. That was halfway to California. I was like, I'm halfway there. I'm going. I might as well.
That. I remember coming here and I got to win an amateur contest.
Yeah.
I can't turn pro until I win an amateur contest.
Totally.
They meant so much to me.
Yeah.
Every single one of them.
So
But so you got to Texas and you're like, I'm halfway there. I'm gonna go straight to California from here.
I mean, I'd already dreamed that up. I was like, as soon as I qualified for the Texas, I think there was a regional qualifier. I think Pete Malenko won it. I got second. Andrew got third. In North Carolina.
How crazy! Like
Eastern Vert.
Andrew.
Yeah.
I'm just freaking out him being in a contest and really trying, because I only know Jamie is like, fuck your contest. Like, you skate. Like because I didn't have that choice. And watching you go, man, I don't need to do this. And I'm like, wow, he actually doesn't. That is cool. Like, how free is that?
Hey, Jason.
Yeah?
Nomad started as a Kickstarter project in 2012 with the goal of building ultra rugged and minimalist tools for the 21st century nomad. Based in Santa Barbara, California, Nomad makes mobile accessories that not only look good, but are there when you need them most.
From iPhone cases to Apple Watch straps to wireless chargers, ultra durable cables, and even premium wallets and passport holders crafted with Horween leather.
Nomad uses American leather for their cases and bands that just look better the more you use them.
Nomad has designed brands for Apple Watches that seemingly go from the ramp to a night out.
Nomad offers convenient wireless charging solutions for the home, office, and bedroom with a suite of chargers for whatever mobile devices you use, as well as Apple Watch and AirPods.
Nomad is a climate-neutral certified brand. The attention to detail with these products is amazing. Great look and fit for all Apple products.
Nomad is and always will be the company that prioritizes design and quality over everything else.
Nomad designs all concepts from the ground up, rather than white labeling existing products.
Check out Nomad at nomadgoods.com/hawkwolf to see what living the Nomad life is all about. That's nomadgoods.com/hawkwolf. Be sure to use the code WOLF to save 10% on your first order.
When I was like dreaming of Texas, there's this one really big gap in Atlanta that I wanted to do before I left. And it was like the monkey on my back. It was in Buckhead, and it was called the Buckhead Gap. And I went to try it the day before we left. And I wasn't really thinking about the contest, but I tried this gap and I ended up kicking out first or second try, blew my heel out, incredibly blew it out, like black and blue heel. And the contest is like a week later in Texas, or 2 weeks later or something. Anyway, we go there and we have no plan. Like I around this time, I talked to Jeff Clint. I started talking to one of the owners of Reel. And he's like, yeah, the Reel team will be in Texas. Like, hit them up. They'll let you sleep on the floor or couch or something. And there was 3 of us, that had this plan to go to California. Anyway, we got to Texas, and they weren't there yet. And we had no resources. We had like a couple $100 each. And so we slept in the bowl at the Houston skate park. And,
sounds familiar.
It was pretty harsh. It was summertime in Houston.
Wow.
It was cold?
Yeah. No, it wasn't cold. It was hot and humid. And and it was concrete. Yeah, I mean, Houston in the summer is like, I don't know what it'd be like. I don't know what it'd be like, Queensland or something.
Wait, but it was the skate park of Houston.
Skate park of Houston.
No, that was the metal ramps.
The metal ramp, but they have a concrete bowl as you're walking toward the metle ramp.
Oh, okay.
They had the concrete bowl in the street course,
right?
Then the vert ramps in the back. So we slept in that bowl.
Harsh.
And I don't know what I was thinking. No sleeping pad, no sleeping bag. It was like lay on the concrete with a blanket over top of you. It's like straight up homeless stuff.
We had a blanket.
I had a blanket, but not a sleeping bag. Anyway,
Had a blanket in Houston in the summertime.
Yeah.
All right.
And we brought a microwave. We made hot dogs.
Wait.
What?
Wait, you didn't bring a sleeping bag, but you brought a microwave.
Did you find power?
What? Yeah, where'd you plug it in?
They had an extension cord. And
Wait,
Plugged it in.
you woke up in the bowl and then you guys prepared hot dogs in the microwave?
Dude, that strap
Nobody
took
could
me
stop
all the
you.
way to San Francisco.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were homeless in San Francisco making hot dogs.
No, you
there.
went straight from Houston to San Francisco.
Yeah. Yeah. We stopped
With-
in
with
San
your
Diego.
homies?
With 2 homies, yeah. Sean Young, who rode for Anti-Hero for a bit, and my buddy
yeah.
Hurley.
A blanket and a microwave.
A blank and all my VHS tapes and my Thrashers. Those were like the
Oh,
essentials.
so you were playing tapes at night?
No, my VHS tapes were like my most precious things.
You brought them with you? You're not playing, you don't have
My precious.
Just in case I see somebody from Rio, I can show them all these.
No, not my sponsor me videos, like the blind videos,
No,
the
yeah,
Powell
like the-
videos.
skate videos,
wait,
Like
but
the
you
H Street
weren't
Hocus
watching them.
Pocus. It didn't matter. They were like it was like a fire.
best.
It was like a fire, and I'm like grabbing my this many Thrashers and 10 VHS tapes, my microwave, my telephone.
Do you still have those VHS tapes?
Oh yes.
That's
Oh
amazing.
yes. Yeah.
That is-
I still have it. I still have the
wait.
microwave though.
Did you guys have you didn't have a car?
I had a car.
You had a car.
Yeah.
That's big.
So you had a car, Houston NSA finals, and then you're like, from here, we're driving to San Francisco.
Yeah.
Do you have a
we don't
cooler
have
for
enough
your
money
hot
for
dogs?
gas. Wait, what?
No, we bought hot dogs as we went and
Oh, right.
ate them as we went, and then
Right.
they're gone. We didn't like.
Did you
keep
ever like cut it up and do something different and not eat a hot dog? Like, did you get
Franks
an
and
egg?
beans?
maybe Taco Bell, but
Right.
it would have been like at that level.
Right.
Taco Bell or hot dogs, like under a few dollars.
Got it.
So at first, let me reel back. Before we left on this cross country trip, I had an Isuzu iMark, which you probably never heard of that car, but it's kind of like a Tercel, but Isuzu's version, like a small 4-door sedan. Anyway, the timing belt blew right before we left. We had about $1,500 saved amongst the 3 of us. No, we had about $2,000. The timing belt cost $1,500. And we all looked at each other and we're like, okay, I couldn't afford it on my own.
Yeah.
So it was like, if we're all going to California, our option is to pitch in and make this happen.
Yeah.
Or we can ditch the California dream for now and go to Texas and come back. It wasn't an option. We all 3 pitched in, $500 each, fixed the car, because it's now like our car. and we drove the car out, but now we only have $300 each when we left. So we had $900 between it, the 3 of us. Obviously, gas was cheaper. But if you think about that, going to California, we're going to be spare changing in no time when we get there. So hot dogs and Taco Bell was kind of like the only logical option
Yep.
in order to just stay alive.
And you're young, so you can eat that and
For sure.
totally skate full energized.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember the scene where Alfonso Rawls ollies like a jacuzzi and his board goes in and the lady's yelling at him? He's in a hotel and he's ollieing, he's pushing around the pool. I think it's in like, not the new H Street video in the credits or something, or maybe even in Next. Anyway, he's ollieing a jacuzzi and his board goes in the pool and this lady comes up to the fence and she's yelling at him. And that pool is in Texas. And we're sleeping in the bowl, skating all day. There's no shower. So I saw some people skating. I was like, hey, where are you guys staying? And they're like, oh, we're staying at this hotel. It's pretty crappy or whatever. They're like, is there a pool? They're like, it's pretty gross. I don't think you want to swim in it. I went there with a Speedo.
That was your shower.
I went
Pool
there
shower.
with a Speedo and a bar of soap.
Nice.
In the Speedo,
Yeah.
bar of soap, taking a shower,
Yeah.
and then I'm seeing the dudes I'm competing with coming out of their doors in the morning
Yeah.
that they're going to be at the contest.
Yeah.
Anyway, I see the real team at the contest, and I'm a mess. I'm an Alabama kid. I think I had a perm at the time. It's pretty rough.
Perm?
Yeah, and I
Dang.
didn't wear a shirt, no underwear, pants sagging. It was a pretty rough scene.
It's a vibe.
Anyway, they were not feeling me whatsoever, needless to say.
You weren't feeling the perm?
I don't think they were feeling any of it. I was definitely the hometown hero kid showing off. And so needless to say, I didn't get invited back to their hotel to sleep on the floor.
Oh.
Yeah, that didn't happen. It was Tony Ferguson, Kelly
Did
Bird.
they know that you were the kid that
Moses.
was getting flowed?
I think, and I'll put it this way. I think the guys at Deluxe warned them that there may be this kid at the contest that hits you
okay.
up. So it was almost like Dave Meddy was the team
They're
manager.
like, he's persistent.
Yeah, they're like, you're going to see him there for sure. And I can imagine this if I were the team now
Yeah.
and someone were telling me, like our sales guy being like, hey, just want to give you a heads up. You're going to see this kid. He's
He sent me
overzealous.
18 videos in the last month. He's pretty amped.
He's pretty amped. Anyway,
He's talking about microwave
they
hot
were
dogs.
they were like, I got the vibe real quick that like, I was a bit much. for them because the dudes were pretty mellow. Kelly Bird, Tony Ferguson, Moses, Dave Meddy.
Yeah.
A couple other guys were on the trip.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like an amazing first impression.
So you've got no place to stay. You kind of, your mission, I mean, part of it was get on reel, and that is really not happening. What is the team, what is you and your two buddies, what are you doing now?
So I skated the contest with a heel bruise and got 7th or whatever, which was pretty decent.
Yeah.
Did it prevent you from doing stuff you planned to do?
Yeah, I didn't even skate until I absolutely had to.
Oh, I see.
I tried to do, when you're hurt, you're like, okay, tell me when I absolutely have to skate. There wasn't much warm up. It was like, I got my 5 or 6 moves. I'm going to do those and hope they work. I made it through the qualifier and got 7th and felt okay about those results. We went to San Diego. I met Mirko at that contest, and Mirko is a good friend now.
Mirko's awesome.
He's awesome, but met him, and he was so friendly. He's like, yeah, if you come through San Diego, hit me up. So we came through and stayed with one of Mirko's buddies, Ty Gilbert. Anyway, we stayed in San Diego for 2 days and then went up the, and you know what's really strange is when we got to California, I got on vans at that contest, at the Houston contest. Tiny was a team manager back then. I don't know if you remember him, but anyway, he was a team manager, and I think I was on Simple before that. But I got on vans. He's like, "Hey, stop by, Orange, and stop by the factory at the time. They're making shoes there." And
Did he know that you're on this mission to drive there?
Yeah. He kind of heard my deal, and he was like kind of sparked on. Oh wow, that you're motivated.
It's hardcore.
Yeah, it's hardcore.
Yeah.
And stop by Vans, and we'll give you some shoes. The day I got there was the day they had just put the first half cabs in the box. Yeah. They were just fresh off the assembly. I got the first 2 pairs of half cabs aside from cab.
Yeah.
Just because of the timing of me being there, I had 2 all black pairs of half cabs.
Huge.
And was like, didn't even know how big of a deal it was. We drove straight from Vans to Embarcadero, and
That's dude. For context, that's 300 miles. 200,
probably 7
miles.
hours or so.
Directly from the shoe, like, we got to try these out in Embarcadero.
Go to EMB right now.
You couldn't have stopped
somewhere along this way. I sprained my ankle on this trip, and I got to Embarcadero and I was hurt, but I had brand new half cabs on. I was sitting on the 3 stair, and James Kelch comes out to me. He's like, "What are those?" It didn't even say his name or nothing, and I didn't know. I knew who he was, but I said they're half cabs. He's like, "What?" I took it off, and he's like, "No, man, you got to give me these." He's like, What size are you?" He's like, "That's my size," and I was like, "Yeah, man, sorry, I can't give them to you. Like, this is one of the only things I got." And he's like, "Nah, I don't think you understand. You're gonna have to come out of those." And I was like,
"What?"
I was like, "Nah, man, sorry, I can't give them to you." He's like, "All right, so you're serious about this then? You're gonna hold your ground on this?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna hold my ground." He's like, "Nah, I'm just messing with you."
Dude.
Wow.
That was my
I thought that was going a different direction.
Yeah, that was my absolute first impression at Embarcadero.
Wow.
I just sat down on the 3 stair, and he walked straight up to me.
Because the locals have been known to
Oh no, it got
be
worse.
bullies.
It got way worse for me from that. Him saying he was joking was like real light.
That was
I mean, I
the
didn't
best thing that
I didn't
happened.
get physically tortured, but emotionally tortured. It was a long road for me for the next year there.
Wait, it helped you though. It helped you form into, like, you became harder from dealing with it, or not?
It was very humbling. Let's just say that.
I
was a
hate
big
that
fish.
Notion, though. I hate that notion that we got hassled so much that, like, yes, part of that is true. I just hate it. You know what I mean?
No, you're allowed to hate it, but you can't deny that.
I know. What doesn't
I mean,
connect?
I'm interested to know, how many people do you think that broke? You know, like how many of us?
There was dudes coming in from out of town trying to like impress the locals, and they just drove them right back. They were getting turned around on a regular basis.
I feel like vert skating before that era, there was the guys before me in Australia. Not everybody, but a lot of them were like mean. Like,
oh yeah, mean.
Like I'm there. I love skateboarding just as much as you guys, and it's like, what's up with this guy? And I'm like, what? And what's up with your grip tape? I'm like, I spent like 4 hours on this grip tape. I love this grip tape. These are checkers inside checkers. Like, do you know how hard it was to do that? And then they grab my board and throw it in the trash can. And I'm like, what did I do? Like, but just I stayed.
I mean, it's like paying your dues.
I got
right?
better, and like when you get better, all those dudes that used to bully you, all of a sudden they want to be
But
your friend.
you were not giving up. I mean, no matter how much you got hassled in EMB, right?
You know, it was first off, it was a long trip back to Alabama, and I didn't have enough money for it. so
wait.
So
How
broke
long
to be
did you
broken.
stay?
I never went back.
That was it. You drove. Okay, what about your homies?
Hurley, one of the dudes, he was from New Hampshire, and he had like a good scene in New Hampshire. He moved down to Atlanta for the summer, lived with around Sean and I, and me, Sean Young, and Hurley had the dream of coming out together. Hurley, after about 3 weeks on the streets, we're on the streets for several months, like 3 or 4 months. So
Where were you sleeping?
at Embarcadero, like under the wave.
Wow.
Yeah, they had an outlet there, and the microwave was firing.
Really?
Yeah, hot dogs were happening.
Guys,
That's
hot dog.
amazing.
Yeah. So
Where was the outlet?
It's underneath the wave. It's on the back of the steps.
Oh, it's like a janitor or something.
it's a
was putting
janitor.
Into that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. To
Or
like close the
landscaper.
place down.
Yeah.
For like pressure washing or something. Still no sleeping bag, only a blanket from late August all the way. My birthday is October 11th,
Yeah.
and my mom asked me what I wanted for my birthday, and I said a sleeping bag, please. But by this time, also, I'd accumulated so many tickets that my car I got a boot, and my car got towed because it's parked on Market Street, right there. I'm getting ticket every day, and I'm like, I'll throw them away.
I parked there just to do the Gons Gap, and I got a ticket.
Well, that's amazing. You did the Gons Gap.
No, but I mean that was my
worth
purpose.
the ticket.
That was my purpose.
Yeah.
Wait, you did it barefoot.
I did.
He did the Gons Gap barefoot. What is
Yeah.
up with that? Why? Because James Kelch wanted to steal your shoes.
No. This is like 2 years later.
Were you running away? And you ollied the gap to get away because they wanted your pants as well.
That's the movie version. That's the movie version.
Little do you know, guys, that video is
Give up the
actually
shoes, homie.
Yeah.
him running into the streets so he doesn't get his pants taken away.
Yeah, we lived there for a while. I don't know where we were at in the story.
Sorry, well, you said the tickets, and that triggered
Yeah,
me
no,
as
my
well.
car got
But
towed.
yeah,
My mom
like,
got me a sleeping bag and got my car out of tow.
How did...
That was the last real like financial support I got from my family was getting the car out of tow.
Did you earn the at least acceptance or respect from the locals? Did they know that you were sleeping
It was
there?
impossible.
It was impossible. They knew
Yeah.
you were sleeping there.
Yeah, they knew how committed I was, but it was still T-Dog was what you were called back then if you were an out-of-towner or a try-hard T-Dog. So, and if you were a T-Dog that, was having conflict, then they would bark. So when I sometimes would skate up to EMB, they would start barking. The locals would start barking because that's like when you're like the ultimate kook.
Wow.
So that happened
Yeah,
a couple of times. And then I was kind of like, why am I trying? Why am I trying to find the approval of these guys? So by this time, this was happening. I'd been there 6 months or 8 months, and I'd had got a place. We befriended a guy who was skating at him.
Wait, how did you get a place?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're sleeping at Embarcadero. This one guy comes every night at 2 or 3 a.m. The lights are on all night on the plaza. The cops do their rounds at about midnight. We get there after midnight because they kick all the homeless people out at midnight. And then we get there right after they do their rounds, and then you're good until 7 until all the business people come out. At any rate, about 2 or 3 every morning, this one dude named John Baker would show up and skate by himself. And it was always like, what is this dude doing here? And then one time we asked him, we were sleeping normally, and we just hear the bricks clacking, One night we strike up a conversation with him, and he's like, yeah, my parents pay for a place in the Tenderloin. I go to SF State. He was going to college. He was from Grass Valley, where Sen's from. And he's like, yeah, I got a studio apartment in the TL, which is kind of the ghetto. It was like the drug neighborhood at the time. It was really gnarly. It's like down the street from the police station, ironically. Anyway, and he's like, what are you guys doing here? We're like, we moved here from the South, like my buddy's from Atlanta, I'm from Alabama, and we're just here, like, trying to figure it out. And he goes, oh, well, my parents pay for my rent. You guys can sleep on my floor for $50 a month. No security deposit, anything, if you need a place to stay.
Wow.
So, one dude's already back, so it's just me and Sean Young. Hurley's already went home to New Hampshire. He had a scene to return to. He's like, screw this. Sean and I both got staph infection on the street and got really, really sick before this. And that was the only time.
How did you get taken care of?
Free clinic. Had to go to a free clinic. And basically you just wait in line all day.
Did you both
it's like
get
a line
it
out the door.
from abrasions, or do you just got it?
I think I think it's, obviously we're not very good
Yeah, the
hygiene.
hygiene
We're
is
showering.
rough,
It's like,
yes, of course.
there's no more pool to shower in my speed. Actually, we did find a country club pool that I did the Speedo thing a couple times, but for the most part, there's a bathroom on like the 30th floor at the Hyatt, and you can like lock the door and pretty much shower in the sink. But at that point, you couldn't. I didn't really do that very often, and we're skating nonstop, so we got scabs everywhere,
Yeah.
and we're just sleeping outside. So, however the case, we both got staph infection
same time?
At the same time, and it's contagious.
Oh yeah,
but
well, we know.
yeah. So it's spread to arms, hands. There's bumps all over my body,
Dude.
and they're getting bigger by the day. So we go and sit in line all day long at the free clinic to get a penicillin shot.
Oh my God.
So, when I get the penicillin shot, I talk about this on the 9 Club too, but I get to the doctor and he's like, what's your story? And I'm like, I moved out here. I'm trying to make a life in skateboarding. Been on the streets for a couple months. And he's like, well, the only way to get off the streets, right? And I was like, get a job? And he's like, no, male prostitution's it's the only way out for you.
What?
And I was
That's
like,
what the doctor said?
yeah. And I was like, that can't be right.
Surely there's another way.
Surely there's another way. Give me the shot. I'm out of here.
Was he saying that like
Was
to
he gonna
encourage
hide
you
you?
to turn that way?
I don't know. I think he was. I think he
factual?
was saying like his data shows. His data
Okay.
shows that the only way for young kids to
Wow.
get off the street was prostitution.
That's frightening.
So anyway, he gives me the penicillin shot, and right around there, or before or after, I got strep throat as well. So I think I had strep throat and staph at the same time. And so that was the only time where I was like thinking about like just getting going home, because I was sleeping in my car all day and just shivering, a mess. But once I got the penicillin shot and I was feeling better, the optimism started coming back, and then that return home thing kind of drifted out, and I was back in the mix.
But the whole time you're going through that, the ultimate goal was, I'm going to make a living skating.
Yeah. Well, I was up for anything. I was up to get a job. I mean, like, I just wanted to make a life in skateboarding. But yeah, the ultimate dream dream is to become a sponsored skateboarder and a professional
But there was no
skateboarder.
chance of, I'm just going to go apply for a job at a coffee shop.
No, I'm down to do that until I can get it going. So
Okay.
and that's the next step. I get off the street, and reeling back, the staph infection and the free clinic scenario was while we were homeless. John Baker offers us a $50 spot on the floor. Now I can shower regularly. I started putting in applications, and I put in an application at a place called Whole Earth Access, which was like a kind of like a Costco warehouse vibe, alternative department store in San Francisco. And so I get a job there selling shoes. I'm selling like Nikes and Rockports and Cole Haans, and I'm learning about something too. I was learning about footwear, and I was learning about lasts. I was learning about, what shoes fit different people, and I think I was a natural salesman. So I did really well at this shoe job, and I probably only was there for like 3 to 6 months. But during this time, Thebo tells me, like, actually even while we were homeless, I think Thebo sits me down and is like, I remember he had a rock and he was like drawing in the dirt. He's like, yeah, this is a really hard conversation for me, but I'm sorry, I don't have a place for you at Real. The guys, it's just not a good fit. And he didn't really even need to tell me that, but I appreciate that he did break it down for me so, like,
Debo's
there was no question.
He's the real deal.
Yeah, there was no question. He's like, we will give you boards until you get something going, and if I can help you get on, Black Label or anything that you did. I wanted to write for Black Label. That was my second pick after Real.
Okay.
So he's like, if I can help you in any way, I'm down to help you, but I can definitely give you boards. You can stay on Thunder and Spitfire, less of a commitment, not as much of a team vibe. And so they gave me trucks and wheels. Ruben was there at the time. They gave me trucks and wheels, and then gave me boards for a while. And he's like, you can, sell the boards, sell the wheels, do whatever you got to do to stay alive. And he even invited me and Sean Young over to take showers and eat a warm meal at his house occasionally, which was huge.
To put it in perspective, no one was killing it in skateboarding at the time in terms of owning a company or even being a pro skater. I mean, maybe a little bit. So your dream was lofty, but also to have people giving you stuff it speaks more about them as well, because
It does.
no one was really doing well.
He had nothing to gain by
Yeah,
giving me boards.
exactly.
That's really what it comes
Right.
down to. He was purely helping me on
Yeah.
my path.
He knew your passion.
Yeah, and that's what he would say. He would be like, it's clear that you have the passion to make it and you're determined. And I know this isn't the end for you, but I just am telling you, the reality here. That really helped me. And then what also helped me was the abuse that I got at Embarcadero just showed me that I'm trying too hard to fit in. So I retracted from that scene and I started shooting photos with Bryce Knights and hanging out with Morford and those guys and staying out in the avenues and kind of exploring the city outside of the scene. And I started filming with Brian Young, and we were filming for the Spitfire video, and I started filming for the Invisible video. I got on a small company called Experience for like less than a year, turned pro for them, and it kind of was quick. And then Laban saw this video I was making for Black Label and invited me to ride for Invisible, and Invisible was through Blockhead.
Yeah.
And so shortly after...
And they were my neighbor.
Yeah. And
in
so,
Fallbrook.
Exactly.
Jason.
Yeah?
I'm sorry, I got to pause this episode for a second to give you guys a very important discount code. So listen up. Head to tryfume.com and use code HVW to save 10% off when you get the Journey Pack today.
Fume is not a vape. It's a non-electronic device designed to transform your negative habits.
Instead of pods filled with potentially harmful chemicals like a vape, Fume uses cores infused with plants like peppermint and cinnamon for delicious natural flavors.
It's really fun to play with. Your fingers will always have something to do.
The easiest way to stop a bad habit is to switch to a positive one, and Fume is designed perfectly to do just that. They have thousands of 5-star reviews from people just like you who've successfully switched when other solutions just didn't work.
Head to tryfume.com and use the code HVW to save 10% off when you get your Journey Pack today, mate. The Journey Pack comes with 3 unique flavors. The new version 2 Fume to help kickstart your positive habits.
That's tryfum.com and use code HVW to save an additional 10% off on your order today.
Yeah, do it.
Go.
Do it. I dare you.
Late 93, I moved to San Diego to be closer to Invisible. And Invisible was right next to Transworld. And I started, making connections with the guys in San Diego. But that's kind of the trajectory of my story. Yeah, I basically got small sponsors and just tried to make the most of it.
I never heard those gritty details. And that's a lot.
Yeah, looking back on it, what you said earlier, Jason, is like it helped form me. It was like I was going through the trials and tribulations to become who I would be.
Right.
And the fact that I didn't give up and I pushed through and I had even small success throughout that time period kept me going and kept encouraging me.
Yep.
And it really made me who I would be.
Yep.
And then I would lean on that resilience for the rest of my career.
Right, because you know it's in there.
Yeah, I know it's in there, and I know that no matter how bad things get, it will never get that bad.
Right.
Again,
Right.
And so I feel like it was really like, as weird as it is, it was like the best case scenario. It didn't seem like it at the time, but
Yeah, well, I mean, we all experienced, yours is extreme, his is pretty extreme too. Mine was more just in the sense of same bullying, not fitting in,
Yeah.
Being told it's never going to work or you don't do it right. But that thread is something for sure that's carried all of us through. And I guess there is a part of me too that I hate to say it, but somewhat thankful that I had to go through those trials and tribulations just to get to where you are and to have appreciation and the fortitude. Because now it's like nothing's going to stop you.
Yeah, I think once you can break through that, it gave me a whole new realm of confidence. And when I started getting photos in the mag, despite that hate or despite those obstacles or despite that difficulty on entering the scene, but if I were to look back and think about it, and if I were where I am now and some kid came in with the same trajectory, it would be such a turnoff. And I would have to sit them down and say the same thing. And I have done that. I've had hometown heroes from all over the world, say, I'm gonna ride for zero. And be like, I'm coming and I'm making this happen, hell or high water. And I gotta be like, whoa, there's a few steps, there's a lot to kind of analyze here and try and figure out how to read the room. I wasn't reading the room. Like,
Right.
at Embarcadero, I was just coming in. I ollied the Gons every day for like 50 days because I thought I was training for something. And they're barking at me as I'm either riding away or whatever and one day they're like, man, are you ever going to do a trick? You're just going to keep ollieing it. And I 180'd it one day and then someone was like, man, I heard you 180. That's pretty dope. And then I started trying tricks over it. And
What did you do after the 180?
I switched 180'd off the curb.
You did?
Off the 3 block, yeah.
Because I just jumped the hell off.
I think the first one I kind of jumped off, and then I was like, I think I could do this again. So I did 180.
That's amazing because there's no time for that.
Yeah, there's not a lot of time.
So it sounds like you've always like been able to jump bigger stuff, but it seemed like when you started your own company, you all of a sudden became this madman, like where the things that you were jumping changed, like it was bigger than, it was like way more serious to me. Like all of a sudden I remember watching a video and going, Jesus, okay, like this is he's got a lot more commitment than pretty much everybody to start doing this. Was that like orchestrated? Like you were like, this is my company, so now I need to bring, because you were already a little older, or do you think you were in your prime?
No, I was young still. So
Okay.
just to reel back a little bit, little kid, I remember the first time really being excited about something, and this, sounds pretty country or whatever, but jumping out of trees was the first time I had the exhilarating feeling of, wow, this is really fun.
Yeah.
And then I was doing it with some buddies. I'm like 6 years old, 7 years old, jumping out of trees into the grass and doing a little stuntman roll.
Yeah.
And I'm finding myself going higher and higher in the tree.
Yeah.
And I then I'm developing an ability to tap one foot and go over a shoulder, and I'm just a little kid.
Yeah.
And so everyone else stopped like at head high for a 6 or 7 year old, and I kept going until I realized that I couldn't jump down anymore without some forward momentum. So then I started jumping off the roofs of houses and stuff. I started jumping off high things, and I'm really intrigued by it, and I really enjoy it.
How long did that go?
Until 12 or 13, until I started
years
skating.
Years and years of jumping off roofs
Stuff.
with no
Just
idea
stuff.
about skateboarding.
And I wouldn't do it all the time. I wouldn't be like constantly searching for roofs. But if I saw something that I thought I could jump, and it was kind of like, you skateboarding, you see something, and I was like, oh, I could probably, jump this sidewalk into the grass. I would jump off an 8-foot high roof or a 10-foot high roof into the grass. And I guess when I started skating and jump ramps were a thing, I was really down for jump ramps all day, all night. And then when acid drops and riding off high drops started coming into play in the late 80s, it's like 89.
Yeah.
I'm riding off high drops, and a lot of the guys that I was with were done at 4 feet.
Yeah.
And I'm still going 5, 6, 7 feet, and I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah.
And so I've basically been developing and nurturing this, enthusiasm for jumping off stuff.
Yeah.
And so
And
by
your
the
body is so conditioned for the impact.
for it. And for whatever reason, I have, we all have different bodies, and we find what it's useful for and what it's good for. And then when I started, skating stairs and jumping gaps in the early 90s, I realized that I was hungrier for it than everyone else, and it was because I was either conditioned or I had a mind for it, and I knew it was possible.
That's a superhero origin story.
So locally, I started jumping gaps in Alabama, all the parking lot gaps, from parking lot to parking lot. And there was curbs in front of most of the gaps. So, and they're rough ground and all those different circumstances. But I jumped every gap in town, and then I'm going to the next town, and I'm jumping every gap. And I'm only ollieing or 180ing kind of at this point. It's really simple and basic. But they're getting pretty
They're
big.
still big,
Yeah, they're big. I mean, and the gap I blew my heel on in 92 on the way to California was, I don't know, 7 feet high.
Did you ever-
and probably
did you
50.
go-
I
did
went
you go-
back in
Yeah, I knew
93
it.
and did it. Yeah.
I knew it.
Yeah.
And when?
So I came to California for a year, and in 93, Drake Jones and I drove across our first road trip, my first road trip after being in California. Same car.
So did you spend the holidays there too? Like you didn't go home?
I went home once. My sister got married in 93. So I was in California for a year and a half before I went back.
Wow.
In the fall of 93, someone must have got me a ticket or something. So I flew home to Alabama for the first time. I remember I had an invisible hat on in this like wedding photo. So I know that I rode for Invisible. So it's late.
I like how that's the gauge.
Late 93.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I'd seen my parents. I'm 18, almost 19 at the time. But later, I think it was the summer of 93 maybe. I'm not sure the time frame exactly, but Drake Jones and I did a road trip. Actually, no, it was summer of 93. Anyway, we drove back. We drove across the East Coast, or across the United States, started off in New York, and then drove all the way south to Atlanta, Alabama, and then I drove back.
Were you making some money then?
Yeah, it was like $500 a month. And I don't know how I paid for that trip. I don't really remember. Maybe Drake and I pitched in.
Okay.
So in 93, I get to Atlanta, and like my first order of business is I'm going back. You know, like that really needs to happen. So I go to the Gap, and I ollie the Gap, and you know we're homie filming.
How
it.
much
I think he filmed my
was
butt
it?
side. I had a lot more confidence. I'd been in California for a little bit.
Right.
I still took like 7 or 8 tries though, but I landed on every single one. I knew not to kick out. The Gap is big enough. It was pretty big. And there was like
Why did you know not to kick out?
Because you learned a lesson.
Well, I blew my heel a year and a half
Do
before.
you use that technique still to this day? Like, you can't kick out because that's the one that hurts the most?
Oh, wait, yeah, it's way worse.
So it's a little bit like motocross for a big gap. Like,
for sure.
No matter how bad it gets, you got to land on the bike first.
Yeah. Wow. And sometimes the mind says kick out, and that's and I've done that, and most of the time, I mean, most of my gnarliest injuries have been from kickouts.
Yeah,
it's bad.
So
the
sometimes
Gap,
you take off and you're like, shit, it's a little bit of a bad angle, but still commit.
Well, I mean, there's a time where you know that committing, you know, if your feet aren't right or you're going to banana peel and hit yourself in the back of the head, you got to know when to kick out.
Right.
I've been in some really like, you know, maybe in the peak of my career, I could kick out and feel tough enough to take whatever came my way.
Yeah.
But at this age, I'm not kicking out anything over a 10 stair. I can't kick out or it hurts way, way worse.
But you can still jump a 10 stair.
Yeah.
Have you seen his footage?
How old are you?
49.
Dude,
But that's probably it. I don't
killing
know how much more I could do more than a 10 stair. I think there's like head high is probably
do you
a good
like
barometer.
cross train or do any other stuff to stay in shape for that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I train 3 days a week and yoga 3 days a week. That's
Okay.
kind of my regimen. I take Sundays off.
When you jump a gap that's so big, like what's the name of that ridiculous thing that you did that makes no sense to human beings?
Leap
Leap of faith.
Yeah. When you make it or you don't make it, that one hurts, right?
Well, that specific gap, I didn't go that fast because there was nothing to clear, and I wanted to make sure I landed on it. Because sometimes when you go really, really fast and you kick out, it can hurt even more, and it seems more like dangerous.
Yeah.
So I went moderate speed because there wasn't much to clear. All I had to do was go over the rail. But because I went slower, the board drops off my feet, and I land on the board still. Like we said, you got to land on it.
Yeah.
I landed on it, but it still hurt. I drove into the ground, hurt my hip.
I've watched that a bunch of times. Do you see it now and go, oh, if I just did this?
I mean, I saw it the next day.
The next day, you're like, oh, I could have made.
But the next, like a year later, I tore my ACL and blew my knee out, and then was in knee recovery for the next 5 years with knee injuries going back and forth between my knees. So I always had dreams and visions of going back, and thought I knew it was possible.
Yeah.
No one had done anything that big yet. Jaws wasn't on the scene. You know, he was probably 10 at that time.
or not alive.
Yeah. No, I think he was, we got a sponsor me video from Jaws, I think when he was 12 or something. And
For Zero?
I think it might've been Ennis. I was doing a clothing brand, Ennis, at the time. And he sent us a sponsor me video, which it's a small brand, but it was with Matt Hensley. But
I was on that.
yeah. And anyway, Jaws, you know, could have done it. Sheckler could have done it. You know, Jace or whoever the dude who did the Miami version of Leap of Faith, he could have done it.
If you had gone back to it, would you have grabbed again?
No, I wouldn't have grabbed and I'd have gone faster. It's totally doable.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you get to that height, when you're above 12 feet, it could be one day you can make it. And it's just if you can endure the tries, you could get lucky and make it third try, first try. Or, you know, for me, first try normally doesn't happen because my body's too rigid. So it's almost like I need to land on it a few in order my body to be loose enough. You know when people get in a car crash, the drunk person doesn't die because they're the most limber?
Yeah.
I feel like big jumps are kind of like that. The first one, I'm really rigid and I'm trying to control everything. And then once I land on it, I like this anxiety leaves me. Yeah. And I know like, oh, this isn't that bad. It's almost like getting in a fight. And after the first punch, you're like, oh, I got this. So it's kind of, you know, like after the first try and you land on it, you're like, oh, this is doable. Let me just breathe, calm down a bit. And so I think that those big gaps, you could go there multiple times and not make it, or you could go there and get lucky.
Yeah.
I always had visions of going back, but you know, like I said, I had a string of injuries after that, and I was just.
How did you feel about us putting that in the game?
I thought it was cool. I mean, you know,
I was so hyped on it.
You know, to have something that I tried make it to the level that it's going to be created in that, you know, like form to
Talk about committing yourself. So when we started developing the game, Jamie was all about it. Like he started playing it, giving feedback to Neversoft right away. I mean, he was one of the few that really got into it.
Yeah.
And then he started scoring among the absolute highest THPS players.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
There's a little bit of a story there. I tore my ACL right when the game was first developed, right when the first beta test came out.
I get it.
I was on the couch.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't skate.
But you can video game skate.
Yeah, I can
Close
video game
enough.
skate. And
Yeah.
I was, I loved video games as a kid, and Tony was into video games too. We would nerd out about that a little bit in the early Tony Hawk days, but, THPS days. I got to separate it from you, but
It's all right. I'm used to it.
anyway, I was really into the game and I thought it was really good, but then there were some cheesy elements to it that seemed really corny, and I really cared about it.
Yep.
And maybe this would be a good time. Like I talked about this in some other interviews, but I was the last guy to sign up because I was so nervous of selling out.
Yeah.
And it was the first
Well,
thing.
actually, Costin held out on the first one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you guys were the outliers for sure.
For sure. I think I was the 11th guy.
But you stayed in.
On the first game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tony had reached out and a couple other people had reached out to me, and I didn't know, what to expect. And it kind of felt, I was like, this is going to be like X Games, or this is going to be something like cheesy that's not done well and doesn't make skateboarding look good.
But then you saw it.
No, all of the best dudes were in it. And when I heard the list, I was like, I can't not be in that list.
Right.
I was like, once Mullen, Muska, Kareem, Rodney, it was like, okay, if you don't do this, you are saying that you're like not of this caliber.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, that is like strength in numbers. I just I'll work it out.
But then
But you were one of the few that actually played it. That's
but
my
when
point.
I played it, I was like, phew, I'm so glad I made that choice because
Got
this
it.
game is epic and I love it. And I was all in. And so, I was giving feedback and like finding, bugs and like, where you go through a wall at the end of, finding routes to get the most points on the warehouse level. And I was really excited about it and really interested in it. And the guys at Neversoft, the gamers, were just so stoked that one of the guys in the game was fired up about it.
He was the
as they
first
were.
one that was featured in the game to break 1 million points on.
Because you got
on a
really.
2-minute
But
run,
I
yeah.
get it. If you're hurt,
Yeah.
that's like that's the time that once again going back to like getting picked on at Embarcadero, like to me being hurt. Like one time I was hurt and the X Games was on and I was on the couch hurt watching people do their contest rides at X Games, and I don't think I recall that like it was yesterday. It burnt. It burnt so hard that I was like, oh my God, when I get back, I'm going to go so hard. I'm going to be back in that. I'm going to destroy, you know what I mean? Like, and that's it was only because I couldn't go skateboard right now watching it. And it was such a triggering effect. And I remember thinking, this is good. Like this, because I did come back with some fire.
You were in the first X Games, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Rhode Island.
Yeah, because you ollied over.
I grinded the rail and
Grind the rail, but
yeah.
did you ollie over the thing? Oh, I can't remember. No, I remember you grind the rail. Yeah.
I grinded the rail and I got knocked out jumping one of the the mini mega first like quarter to flat to
Oh
kicker.
yeah, I could not get enough speed for it.
Yeah, it was terrible. I did a Japan and hung up, deck checked, and
Yeah.
knocked myself out. But the X Games I knew then weren't for me. It felt really off for me.
Hell yeah, the announcers and stuff. Like
first
I'm a
year-
Vert
first-
guy, and I remember
Oh,
the announcers.
that street course.
What's the blonde guy
was,
with the just the cheesiest? Like here we are back in the
yeah,
X
I mean,
Games.
they
He was the worst.
they had some growing pains for sure. But the street course was they wanted to make it all look. I don't even know what it was.
Extreme.
Extreme, yeah.
It was called the Extreme Games.
It was extreme games, but it was like covered in sand.
Yeah, because
Right?
the beach was blowing it in.
So it was covered in
called the
sand, and they just
Extreme.
painted over the sand.
It was like grip tape.
So the ground for the street course was straight up grip tape.
Yeah,
So you did not want to fall
Yeah,
at all.
yeah, that's cool.
yeah. It was not.
Yeah,
They
it was-
run a giant event and don't know how to
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
allow
rough.
skateboarding
felt
to
like,
happen.
It felt like just the most awkward, never-ending commercial.
Yeah.
is what it felt like.
Yeah.
And they did it. I did an interview, a little bio, and it had some of my story in it. Some of the things we just talked about, because at that point I was I was only been in California for 3 years at that point. you
Okay.
know? So I had freshly made it out of the slums, and was just starting to come onto the scene. So you know how they do like the little side stories?
Yeah.
So that was my side story. And growing up, my father didn't, like a lot of dads, didn't understand skateboarding and didn't understand my decision to quit school and move to California. And this is only a few years after that has happened. And so they did an interview with me, and I was talking about the challenges between my dad and I, and the kind of difficulties in that relationship. And it was still fresh.
Yeah.
And I was being vulnerable, probably too vulnerable.
Yep, for
then
them.
They curated a piece.
Oh yeah,
And it was like, it was the
terrible.
ultimate, like, a dad abandonment story.
Yeah.
And like, it was, they took things out of context.
And didn't show it to you, just ran it.
Didn't show it to me.
Right.
They showed it to me like an hour before it was live or whatever. And my family and all my friends saw it, and it was so gnarly. And I was like, that and the whole extreme course and all the announcing and just everything, I was like, this is not for me. I do not belong here.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my last.
It's unfortunate that was your first experience because there were all kinds of terrible missteps, especially with editing and coverage and things like that. But how they sort of found their way later, where I think
like till 99 or so.
right, where you would have enjoyed being part of it. You know what I mean? But then you get, I mean, to an extent, maybe in a best trick or something. I don't know. But I'm just saying like that other way. And there were plenty of other people that felt the same way and were like, I'm not doing this again. I'm out of here.
But X Games was right before Europe. So we went to X Games. Ed Templeton and I went to X Games. And then we finished our little East Coast tour. Then we went over to Europe, and I was able to go to Munster and those contests. And those felt so rad. They had full stadiums and full people. But
And they were the one in England?
Northampton.
Northampton, yeah.
So they felt like they were run by skateboarders. So I was like, oh, these contests are fun.
Those were
like
sick,
you're with your peers, and like this is an epic time. Versus X Games, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, action. Like it was gnarly. I was just like, and you're the only one there, and it's like they have the same Wayne's World soundtrack playing over and over again at the first one.
Yeah.
A Dreamweaver, that song I heard a million times at that X Games. And when I still hear Dreamweaver anywhere in the world, I think of 95 X Games.
I had fun doing those B3 contests. I don't know why. I think maybe it was just like living a bit like a rock star. Like
I think
flying to a new city.
that was when they started to figure out what was working too. And I mean, I had to go as sort of an representative of skaters to these meetings twice a year to be like, look, you can't do this. This is not the type of music we listen to. The coverage is not right. Don't turn the camera when someone goes off a ramp.
Yeah.
All this stuff sucks.
Well, you did a lot for
It was hard.
You did a lot for straightening it out.
Oh, thank you. It was a battle.
Yeah.
It was a battle. And then like a couple guys in other sports were like, the prize money should be $1 million for our sport.
Yeah, totally agree.
And I'll never forget the dude ESPN's like, you're a far cry from $1 million.
Yeah. So around that time though, I was filming for Welcome to Hell, the Toy Machine video, and I was discovering how far I could push myself for video. And so the same year I'm filming for Welcome to Hell, I go to X Games, and that's where I was like, okay, contests are things to...
This is a crossroads.
They're a thing to enjoy myself. If it's not an enjoyable, experience, I'm no longer ever going to a contest, and I'm focusing on this because I'm feeling like I'm starting to like make some headway in this video part lane. Dave Bergthold and I edited the video with you in 93. So this is 95, 96. Welcome to Hell came out in 96. And by this time I'm behind the scenes editing, learning how to edit on an edit suite. And that is so enjoyable of a process to me. So I can focus on one trick and practice it on all the rails in town because we didn't have skate parks at the time. So you got to go to a 5-stair and then find a 7-stair and then find a 9-stair and then go to the 12 or the 13 or whatever. That's what it was like. Yeah. And it was like, all right, this weekend I'm going here, or we're going here, here, and here, and then we're going to end up at the 12 and hope it works out. And so I just did one trick at a time and broke things down into bite-sized chunks and pushed myself as far as I could for one trick, then to the next trick, then to the next trick. And that's how video parts are made now. That's how a lot of my friends make parts, and that's how most people make parts. But I was just discovering that is how it was done, or that's how I wanted to do it. Yeah. And then contests, like you were saying, didn't really make sense to me after that. Because I had an avenue for me to be able to communicate with the fan or the customer. And really, I didn't even care about the customers or the fans or anybody. I was just trying to figure out what I had to contribute to skateboarding. And so back to that jumping gaps, I realized that I was willing to put myself through a little more emotional torture than everyone else in order to physically risk it. And that was evident in '92 when I was making sponsor me videos, in my local scene. But then I was able, it kind of went dormant as I was trying to make my way in the California scene. And then once I started filming for those videos and started discovering, first, really, I discovered handrails. And when I discovered that I could learn tricks on handrails and take them pretty far, pretty quickly, because a 10-stair rail didn't feel a whole lot different if you do it enough than a 12, a 13, or a 15. And once you kind of get that, I started getting that formula down for me to learn tricks and push myself, I could replicate it, and rail tricks were a lot easier on you than jumping gaps because you have, you're taking the escalator.
Okay.
It's a lot easier on your body.
You're saying impact-wise.
Impact-wise. To grind.
But also, you got to be quick on your, because I've noticed, the first time I ever saw Rick McCrank skate street, and I was just sitting there high being a loser, and he screwed up and just ran down it. And I was like, if I could do that, I could try anything.
There's just no way.
Because
I'm not good at running down it.
You don't do the rundown, so what do?
I die when when my board's not there. All the times in my history, I end up getting knocked out or something.
Which makes it so much gnarlier. Because when he did that, I was like, oh, I don't even feel like your trick is that dangerous anymore after seeing you walk down with ease. He did it with ease, Tony. I was like,
I've seen a few people bail like that and be completely shocked they got away with it, though.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
But I've also seen people do that normally. If they're trying a nollie front crook, they walk on the rail almost every try until they make it. And
that's crazy.
That's not, but again, my skateboarding was very basic and I pushed it as far as I could.
The biggest rail I ever tried was on a corner, so I had to take off backwards, back behind the rail, and I'm a vert dude.
Outside corner pocket.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah, but I didn't realize
higher.
how hard that was. I was just like, if somebody's done it, I can do it.
It's pretty much a gap to rail.
Yeah, I straight up landed and put my wheel under the rail, and the first thing that I put on the rail on the way down was my face.
Oh.
I remember falling and trying to put my hand out, and it missed the rails, and my hand dong, and then my legs went over. That was the last time I was like, right, don't do that. Don't ever do that again.
I think the key to it, though, is like anything. You start off with a 5-stair, 7-stair, 8-stair, 9-stair, and you kind of keep progressing. I mean, that's what...
Yeah, it's not too late, Jason.
Right, good point. Maybe
you got it. I saw your man ramp footage. You're getting ready.
Oh, man, that's unfortunate that you saw that.
But, hey, congratulations on the 540.
Hey.
Epic.
Thanks,
Loved
dude.
it.
Yeah, that changed me.
Yeah. I don't think I've cried on a trick, so I was feeling for you. I was the fact that if you shed a tear, that means a lot.
Yeah, it still does. It means so much to me. Yeah.
Have you had any, I don't want to say milestones, but anything as you got older, it's like, I want closure on this?
I mean, I'm in it with you, man. First off, I'm waiting to see this last part, and I'm really excited about that.
I have it
Pretty
here.
cool. I saw it.
I don't want to see it on a phone, but when's it go up?
Thank you.
When does it go up?
What's that?
When does
I don't
it go
know.
up?
I just finished it last night. I don't know when this is going to air.
I saw the
I finished it last
Instagram
night,
post.
And I handed it to Thrasher, and whenever they decide to put it
Okay,
up.
so I'm working on my last part.
Oh,
and
you
I
are?
do,
Okay.
I do want closure. I will be 50 in October next year.
So you feel like you're working on your last video?
Yes,
part.
absolutely. And everyone's like,
And you are pushing it in the same way that Andrew's pushing it.
I don't know. I mean, I can't frontside flip down 12s
I don't mean
14s.
like in the same. I'm just saying.
I'm trying to do my very best in this body I have.
It's not.
Yes.
It's not like
no. I'm not going to the local ditch trying to figure out if I can just tail slide or no comply tail
That's
slide.
what I was getting at.
Yeah, I'm trying to do 50 for 50 in the streets.
Oh,
so
sick.
The last few years I did the skate your age at skate parks,
Yep.
47, 48, 49. And the 49 one was my last one in a skate park. And then I'm trying to do 50 for 50 in the streets, trying to pick an epic song.
And you're in it now.
I'm in it now. I'm 24 tricks in.
Wow.
I've been there for a little while though. I had some travel and I had some things come up and I had a few failed tricks that didn't work out and a few missions.
What's been the most challenging physical aspect of all that?
The thing that is hardest for me is to carve out the time to have myself emotionally and physically present in order to stay in it long enough to see things through. I feel like as I've gotten older, I have a window of opportunity for each trick when all of a sudden it becomes really, really not important anymore. Like when I was younger,
I see.
When I was younger,
Yep.
every single trick was the most important thing
Yes.
in the world to me.
Yep.
And now it's the most important thing in the world for about 15 to 30 minutes.
Yep.
And after that, I start really going, what is this worth? What is the value of this? What else should I be doing with my time?
I gave up
Where
on a
else
few
should
tricks
Yeah.
on this part where I was just like, no.
Where else should I
can't.
be?
I said that at
How
least 7 times on that 540 attempt
Yeah.
that day. Where I was like,
But
what
he's
are
talking
you
about actually
doing?
letting it go.
No, but
Yeah.
the thing that you're talking about is exactly there. What happened is everyone around you didn't let it go.
Yes.
And so you are no longer skating for Jason.
Yeah.
You owe it to all these people that you love.
Man, you're
to
so
keep
right,
going.
because it was like I'm not even really good friends with Sandro Diaz, but I could tell that he was like super invested. Like we became good friends from that day.
Yeah.
Like I look at him in a different way now.
Well,
Like,
there's a connection for something that was pivotal. And
he was like, "You've got that, dude.
Yeah.
Like, just stay in it." And I was like, "He's not lying. Like,
No,
he's
he's
not,
not.
making it up. Like, good one, Ellis. Like, you're gonna get knocked out." But
Yeah.
he was like, "I
Yeah,
see it."
that crew is not going to just throw you
Right.
or put you
Bucky,
at risk.
like Bucky would be like, "Dude, don't do that. You're
Yeah.
gonna die." But he was like, "Dude, you've got that," and that definitely made a big difference.
Yeah. So you had enough inspiration and motivation to start spinning them, but you needed that crew
Yep.
to roll away.
Yep.
And so that's a little bit about what I'm like too. But I will try a trick, and if I get to a certain point and it hasn't happened, either self-doubt or the trick becomes very clear what it's actually worth in the grand scheme of life, and it gets so small that my motivation just kind of like drains.
It won't even bring you joy to make it.
No,
at
it
that point.
drains out of my body.
Yeah.
And then all of a
Man.
sudden, when the will's gone, I look at everybody and I'm like, I'm done. I hug my friends and I'm like, thank you so very much for being here for me. I do not have this today. I'm so sorry. And I usually get in my car as fast as I can from there because I don't want to continue torturing myself,
Yeah.
acting like I got it when I know that I don't have it. So
Yeah.
if there was one thing that was the toughest, it's having that resilience in one session enough to see the trick through. And here's another thing that happens that's really hard for me to deal with. When I get really close, sometimes I visualize the trick happening and I almost get the satisfaction that it did happen. And then I no
Yeah.
longer have the motivation to make it happen.
Dang, that's visualized.
Yeah. And then here's another one this is a guilty pleasure. I am excited to make the trick, and there's one person that I want to tell and share about that I made it when I think the trick is about to happen. I'm imagining what it's going to be like texting them after I'm done, and then I've gotten ahead of myself, and then I lose focus on
then you
actually
lost
what
it.
I'm doing.
Yeah.
And then the trick becomes really difficult or hard, and then I'm so emotionally devastated that I took that guilty pleasure
Yeah.
and went down the road of
Dude,
what it was going to be
that's
like.
pretty fascinating.
I did that.
That's
I
fascinating.
rolled away on one and then whipped out on the flat, and it was the first one where I'm like, not only did I see it, I started rolling away, and I remember because he's my closest. If I make a 540 friend, it's freaking Tony Hawk, first of all, and also he knows how much I want that. Like he's always been around for me not making it. So when I rolled away from that one, I was like, he is gonna shit, because I didn't
and I
think I
did.
could do it. But I did kind of get a little ahead of myself because
Yeah.
the next two were off because I've already made it, and then I like by the second one that I screwed up, I was like, dude, get your head back in the
Yeah.
game. Like now you're just posing them again.
Yeah,
because you're living.
it's like premature satisfaction.
yeah, for sure that happened.
And that happens to me regularly. And these are all like weird, like mental games. So if I were to outline what is the most challenging for me, it's keeping my head in the game of the trick.
Yeah.
And then I realize what has to happen then whenever I start to get in a slump or I get into that. I try and go over my trick list or go over some ideas that I have, and I go to the easy ones that are going to be really enjoyable.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, the fun needs to get back into this.
Yep.
So I need to go have fun with friends. And once I get a couple of those, then I start building that confidence and that momentum, and then I'm kind of back doing it again. So that's kind of my cycle. But I mean, the clock's ticking. I got 11 months. And
But you feel physically ready for it.
physically is not the problem. I don't
That's
feel
not a
physical
okay,
is a problem.
That, I mean, that
I think-
definitely is an issue for us.
I think diet, training, and yoga, my system that I have for my body, physically, I'm there. Everything's good. But I have to pace myself. I don't skate 2 days in a row.
Right.
So I did this. I took on this challenge. It was a terrible idea. 49 for 49. I was like, all right, I did the last one at Poods, and that's my home park, and I love skating at Poods. So I did 48 for 48 at Poods, Encinitas Skate Park.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to go travel to some park. Like, what's the best park everyone says now? So everyone's talking about Lot 49 in Miami. And everyone's like, oh yeah, Lot's the best park, Lot's the best park. So I'm like, okay, I'm flying to Miami for the weekend. I'm not going to film it in one day like I have on these previous ones. Like one day I went to Cabs, and I went to Poods, skated the mini ramp with him.
Okay.
And then I go to Poods.
Oh, I think you're saying you're going to do all the tricks in Miami.
I am.
Oh,
so
you are?
At 48, I went to Cab's house,
Okay.
and then I went to Poods. And I broke it up into those 2 sessions, and
see.
that was fun, and it was good. This one, I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to go to Miami, but I made the mistake of, I've never skated this park before. And even though there's hubbas and rails and stairs and all the same kind of obstacles, they are different. And they're not my go-to place, and then I'm in this different environment. And apparently Zero and myself are popular with the Latino culture. So there's a ton of Latino skaters that are really excited to see me there. And they're coming up to me. At Poods, I don't get bothered at all. No one cares who I am. And I've never been asked for a photo or an autograph at Poods, barely ever.
Oh, wow.
But at the skate park in Miami, at this Miami skate park, it's like it's happening pretty
Fans.
consistently.
Yeah.
And I'm like getting into a groove of a trick, and I'm getting asked for a photo, and I'm kind of short circuiting all over the place. It's a new environment. I'm thinking I got it, and I tried to do 15 to 20 tricks per day for 3 days, and I was absolutely beat, and it was really, really tough physically. But when I come home, I'm skating 2 days a week, and I'm going out trying to film for my video part 2 days a week, and there's training and yoga, lots of restoration in between. So that system I can work with. 3 days in a row or going on trips now is really tough.
Yeah.
I feel you.
Yeah, it's tough. So that's kind of where I'm at in that video part zone. I have a song that I want to use, and if I can get the rights to it, I better show up for it because the song's really good, and it'll be.
Are you looking at the calendar and like amortizing? Okay, I need to get this. You are.
I've been doing that.
I know,
I've been doing
I know
that.
how
But
that
if I
feels,
have a tough month, I'm like, okay, I gotta
catch
it just
up.
went from two.
Yeah.
Just went from 2 tricks a month to 3 tricks a month, real quick. And so, but then I'm thinking to myself, okay, if I could get on a trip like Barcelona, you can get 5 tricks in 10 days in Barcelona a lot easier than I could in San Diego.
Freaking mad.
So
That's so.
and the reason
sick.
I say it's my last part is because this is torturous.
That's how I felt. That's exactly what happened to me. Was I was working on this part before I got hurt.
Yeah.
And then as I got back to a level of skating that I could shoot video, and I started to shoot a couple tricks, I don't have this in me anymore.
Yeah.
I can't do this. I can't see a future of doing this.
Yeah.
And then that's when I knew it was the last time.
Yeah.
I feel exactly.
I mean, my
sentiment.
situation is I realize how selfish and how obsessive
Yes.
and how crazy it makes me.
Yeah.
I'm dreaming about it nonstop.
And it bleeds into your personal life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's friction with my wife, and I'm coming up with crazy ideas. Like, somebody sent me a photo of a baby hubba on the East Coast somewhere,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I gotta fly there and skate this
gotta go
baby
get
hubba.
it.
Yeah. And it makes me a crazy person.
Yeah.
And I go to the baby hubba, and it didn't work for any of the tricks I thought it would. And I battled one trick for 3 days and went home 3 days later with a sketchy make that I didn't even make it to 25 tricks. And so I'm like,
it's maddening.
That's not a good idea.
It's
I can't
madness.
put that pressure on myself for one. And my wife and I have 3 teenagers, which is a wild ride.
Yeah.
And I need to be back there with her.
Yeah.
And so now for the next 3 or 4 months, I'm keeping local missions and trying to, strategize a couple days a week missions with the Zero crew.
I feel all those exact emotions.
But I know when someone's like, no, never say never. Yeah, right, it's your last part. I'm like, no, it's my last part.
Yeah, same.
I can't put myself and all the people in my life, I can't put them through this more. I want closure, and that's if God helps me, if I stay healthy and I'm able to deliver. I don't even know that I am. I'm just going to give it my best.
You are. You will.
I hope you're listening.
If I got this damn thing done after my broken leg,
And
you got yours.
congratulations on dude, you're a serious
appreciate it.
inspiration. Like I sent you a message, like when you were first getting back over the second surgery, like I was just like, man, thank you for keep doing what you do, because
thank you.
it is a huge inspiration to myself and the rest of us.
You were the first person to send me a congratulations electronically about the 900. You know that?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. You hear that, people?
Like I went back to my hotel that night and I got an email from him. Like, heard you made 900. Congrats. I know how long you've chased that. So
That's awesome, man. I
Jamie,
didn't know
I appreciate all the history, and
Yeah.
I hope your kids out
commitment
there.
to skating is unparalleled. And you're always above board, literally.
Make the most of it, kids, because when you get to like 50, you see his game plan. Like, does that not sound hectic to you? And when you're young and you can just like eat Taco Bell and sleep on the curb, you should really do as much of that as you can, because sooner or later,
Because at some point you have teenagers and you're trying to hit the hub on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And it doesn't add
I had
up.
no idea that 20 to 30 is such a golden time.
Right.
You know, when people like are in their mid 20s and they're talking to me about something, I'm like, dude, you are in your absolute prime,
Yeah.
because you're mature enough to make, you know, good decisions, and you're strong enough, confident enough, and your body's not going to be in better shape than it is
Yeah.
now. It's like such a golden time.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know.
But
I didn't know it that I was.
I
in
love
it.
that you're going through this, you know, at this kind of with us at the same time, and feeling all the same, even though we're different disciplines,
Yeah.
different styles. I think the intention is exactly the same.
Yeah. And by no means am I saying my body's easy breezy and I'm all good. I'm just saying that I feel like my body is along for the ride. My mind and my emotional state.
You can get to this one. You can get to the end of this one.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, if, you know, whatever.
You can.
Obviously, things can happen all the time,
Yeah.
but I feel like my self-preservation is pretty on point too. I'm not trying things when I don't feel
Yeah.
up for it. You know, that was all my injuries in my youth, where like my ego was leading the way.
Careless.
Yeah.
Oh, same.
Or just thinking like, I have
I
this
got
because,
it. Yeah. Totally.
I can't give up, or, you know, whatever.
We fucked around and found out.
Yeah. Very, very true.
Yeah,
Well,
you
Jamie,
did.
thanks for coming. It's always good to see you. I appreciate everything you've done. Your support of our foundation through the years as well is
Dude,
not
it is
forgotten.
my absolute pleasure. Thank you for inviting me to be in the game. Thanks for paving the way. Yeah, man, I've always looked up to you and admired all that you've done, and it's a pleasure to know you. And yeah, thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, I appreciate it, of course. Jamie Thomas, everyone.
Like and subscribe.